What's going on, everyone? In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can put video game guides on Amazon for incredible profit. These are all going to be A2A book flips, meaning we're going to buy them on Amazon and then resell them on Amazon for a profit. If you're new to the channel, my name is Joji. I'm a high school teacher, six-figure book seller, and I'm here to help you guys learn how to sell books on Amazon. Okay, so I was looking at some of my orders over the last week, and I came across the Secret of Man official game secrets. Sold this for $55. You can see that I actually bought this on August 29th of last year, so it took a little while to sell, but you can see I bought it here for $8.89. And so when you put in that buy cost and that sales price, and we made a $27 profit, 314% ROI, and let me show you why I bought this. Okay, so when you take a look at the Keepa graph, you can see that when I had bought this was back here in August when the price dropped from $32 all the way down to $4 plus shipping. If we look at this book's historical data over the last 4 or 5 years, you can see that its used price is kind of always hovered, at least around $20, but up to 30 or 40 sometimes. And it's clearly a book that holds value. Now, one little tip for you here, you can see that that used price is kind of really close to the bottom of the graph. And the reason for that is that this new price at one point in time back in 2021 was up to $900. And so that's stretching the graph. So I'm just going to get rid of that new price to kind of bring it a little bit into more, a better view for you here. And you can see there actually have been times where this has been listed as high as 200, as high as 150. So what we can also do is just click and drag to see, when the used price wasn't that high. And now you get a much better kind of frame of view of what this book is worth. So you can see it's in the 20s, it's in the 40s, it's in the 30s. It's kind of in between that $20 to $40 range. So, when this got really low back here in September, September, got down to, $4 plus shipping. I think I picked up a couple of copies because I know this is a video game guide. I know the Secret of Mana. I think it's an NES or SNES game. I think it's an SNES game. But I know that, Nintendo products or just video game products in general tend to do very well. So thought that this was a no-brainer and ended up actually selling pretty well. Here's actually another player's guide, The Legend of Zelda. Obviously, if you don't know anything about video games, you probably still have heard about The Legend of Zelda. So The Legend of Zelda, this is a strategy guide, A Link to the Past, came out in 1992. You actually see this just recently underwent a repricing. We're from $89 down here all the way to about $25. And of course, I picked up a couple copies. If you look at this book's historical data going back to 2017, 2018, its use price is always north of 50, often up to 70. Even this year has had some sales rank drops close to 100. So this was a no-brainer. And later on in the video, I'm going to show you how you can find a book just like this or find a strategy guide just like this. Because let me tell you something. I sell a bunch of strategy guides every year. They're great money makers and they can be replenished for years into the future. Now, here's actually a different Legend of Zelda book. I bought this October 8th of last year. I bought it for $11.75 from good old Goodwill, $15.74 all in shipping. Now, similarly, if you scroll down to this Keepa graph, you can see it's even had sales rank drops in the 40s and the 50s and a little bit lower in the 30s and 40s as well. But again, if you look at this book over the last 4 or 5 years, one thing that you'll notice is that its used price holds some pretty strong value. If I go to the sales rate, you can see how that used price is always between that $30 to $50 range. So again, me picking this book up for $15 on Amazon, it's really undervalued for normally what it's worth. Now on Seller Amp, I can scroll down here, click on the orders page, and when I do that, you can see that I have actually sold this book for $54.98. And so if I put in $54.98, it's a $23 profit, 148% return on investment. Again, this is a book that I can go ahead and track in the future. Now, again, on October 8th, you can see how same sort of pattern. We have this repricing order brought the price from $50 all the way down here to about $11 plus shipping, and was able to pick up that book as well. Now, I also want to show you that some video game guides can also be much more valuable. Here's a video game guide, The Witcher 3, actually kind of a newer video game, considering this is 2016, right? It's not like an NES game or SNES game. So, I bought this on May 1st of last year. Bought it for a total of $68.81, again, from good old Goodwill. And if you scroll down to this Keepa graph, you can see that over the last year, the lowest used price has pretty much always been well over $100. Now, when we expand to the last 2,800 days, you can see that not only has it sold for over $100, it also has had times where it has potentially sold for up to $300 as well. You can see back here, sales rank drops and the lowest used price is right around $300. And yeah, obviously a strategy guide that at some point in time can sell for a lot of money. Again, if we scroll down here on Seller Amp, we go to the orders page, you can see I actually sold it twice. Once for $189, it got refunded. So someone bought it and got shipped to the customer. That customer decided they didn't want it and they returned it back to Amazon. Now, what happens when Amazon receives one of your returns? An employee has to make a decision. They have to figure out, hey, is this book still fulfillable or is it unfulfillable? And in many cases, it's still fulfillable. They think nothing's wrong with it. They just put it right back on the shelf, and this is now active and live for any other customer to buy, which is what happened in this case. But there are also some instances where they deem it unfulfillable, and sometimes they may not even really inspect the book at all. They'll just deem it unfulfillable, and then you have to create a removal order, send it back to your prep center or your house, and then determine if it's actually still worth selling, it's in good enough condition, and then send it back in. But in this case, $189. So if we go and put in the $189.99 sell price, we made a $79 profit and a 116% ROI. Now, this is a book that I'm tracking, and that's the kind of point of being successful in a lot of these strategy guides. There's so many video games, which means there's so many strategy guides, and you should be tracking the ones that have a lot of value. So the way you can track it is, come up here to the track product feature on Keepa, and you can go ahead and just put in a tracking price. You can include shipping if you want. If you do want to include shipping, like let's say $65, include shipping costs, you actually need to be, for the tracking mode, you need to be under advanced. And you can make that the default setting. I think the default setting is basic, but if you want to make the default setting advanced, you can also do that as well. I always like to track things up to a decade, and this is something that I'd be looking for in the future. So now I'm sure you're wondering, Joji, how the heck do we find these strategy guides? Well, it's actually not too difficult. We're going to use Keepa Product Finder. I wouldn't say it's not too difficult. It takes a little bit of creative thinking, and also takes a little bit of practice and experience. By the way, a little plug, I have the Amazon Masterclass that I made that launched last November. We have over 200 students in it. If you like these kind of videos and you like these sourcing strategies, there's tons of even more creative sourcing strategies in the A28 Masterclass. So if you feel like you want to learn the fastest possible, feel free to do that. If not, just keep watching these videos, tons of free value, and I'm sure you guys can sell quite a bit of books just watching these videos. All right, so the way that we're going to find these books is actually by going down to the product details page and just doing a little bit of investigative work for each of these books. So notice that this Legend of Zelda book that I just picked up, notice that the publisher is Nintendo, which makes sense. We're going to use that in Keepa Product Finder. And then also notice that it's listed in the book category. But importantly, this book does not have a subcategory. Now, the reason why I say that's important is because if you look at this other Legend of Zelda book, which we did successfully flip already, you can see that there is a subcategory, which is computer and internet game strategy guides. So if you're not familiar with what a subcategory is, it's just a category within a category. So the overall category, being books here, is this massive category in Amazon that has over 100 million books in it. But then there's also these subcategories, which is what, people can put any individual book into like a smaller category within the book category. That's a subcategory. And this computer and internet game strategy guides is also something that we're going to use for Keepa Product Finder. Now, what I want you to also notice is that Prima Games here is the publisher, which is different than Nintendo, and that is also going to be important. Now, if you look at this God of War official strategy guide, which I didn't show you, which I purchased for $11 and flipped for $85, you can see that this has Prima Games as the publisher, which is a different publisher. And then also you can see that it's in computer and internet game strategy guides. By the way, these books that I'm flipping in this subcategory have a rank of 2,000. So remember that the rank is giving you the popularity of that product relative to the other products in that category or subcategory. So in this case, if you have a subcategory rank of 2,300, that means that there are technically at this point in time 2,361 other computer and internet game strategy guides that are selling more frequently than this one. In other words, there's a ton of these that are selling a lot, and you can track most of them and pick them up for pretty good prices and make some good money on them. Now, this Prima The Witcher 3 game, if we scroll down to its product details, you can see that this is Prima Games as well. But what's interesting is this is actually in two different categories. This is also in puzzle and game reference, and this one's at 281. So this tells us that also potentially looking at puzzle and game reference is also going to be important for Keepa Product Finder. And lastly, this official National Pokedex book here, official strategy guide. I bought this for $26, so they both up for $89, make $37 profit. And if we go down here to the product details page, you can see that this is yet another publisher. But importantly, what you'll notice is that this book is not in a subcategory. So what that means is, if this book is not showing a subcategory, that means that you can't actually find it through Keepa Product Finder in that subcategory. It's really important to understand. All right, so now that we've gone through all that, let's go over to Keepa Product Finder. You're simply just going to go to keepa.com. Once you're at keepa.com, you go to data, you go to product finder. And the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and go to the book category. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to where this says root category, and I'm going to go to books. Now, I think the first thing that we should do is search the subcategory. So remember, when we come back here, not to this first Legend of Zelda book, but the second Legend of Zelda book, we have computer and internet game strategy guides. So what we're going to do is just type in computer and internet. You can see that we've got, where is this at? We're going to go down to computer, so games and strategy guides. So we have books, subjects, computers and technology, games and strategy guides, and there's actually 42,000 books in that subcategory. Now, what we know is that really the category is larger than that. There's just also, some books that haven't been placed in it. And the reason why I know that is because we looked at a couple of actual official strategy guides just a second ago that didn't have a subcategory. So this brings us down to 30,000 products. And now what we want to do is just put in some other parameters to narrow it down. If you strictly just wanted a list of all the strategy guides that have some decent value, what you could do is just go to the use price, and under use price, say the 90-day average has to be at least like $30. I would say that's going to be official strategy guides that have pretty good value. And you also want to make sure they're selling. So what I like to do is Control F for the find function, go and type in drops. And if you want a strategy guide that's selling, somewhat frequently, you'd probably put an e-score of 6, which means it sells at least once up per month in the last 6 months. So I think I just said e-score. That's not e-score. E-score is what Caleb Roth created, but essentially this is sales rank drops in the last 100 days. So 6 sales rank drops would be essentially 1 per month on average. So this brings us 595 products, and this is just a list of a bunch of strategy guides that do really well. You can see that any one of these, is going to meet those criteria. Now, a lot of these Amazon is still in stock and they're selling, and so you might be interested, well, I only want to see the ones where Amazon's not selling. And that's as simple as coming back up to the top here and clicking Amazon out of stock. That brings you down to 337. So now you're going to be finding those strategy guides that Amazon's out of stock on. Those are going to be the ones that are more likely to be older. Those are going to be the ones that are more likely to, have more value, be able to go double, triple, quadruple retail price. And so now what this offers you is the ability to look at any one of these individual guides and decide to track it for a certain buy cost. Like, for example, we just look at this Art of the Final Fantasy, right? This looks like it's selling in the 40s to 50s year-round, even can buy box higher than that over the last 4,700 days. It's held some pretty consistent, pretty high average use value price. And you can see that, there are 13 people tracking it, so there's going to be competition. But notice that you also had, a point in time where this book dropped in price from 49 down to 12. So if you were tracking this book for, let's say, $20, you would have got notified and you could potentially pick that book up and made some pretty good profit. Now, I will say that the books that you're probably going to be more competitive with, or the books that you're more likely to pick up, are the ones that probably have worse sales rank. For example, this book here has fewer sales rank drops, which just means that there's probably less people tracking it, less people interested in it, less competition. But you can still see that even when this book dropped in price from $51 down here to $8, it did sell probably pretty immediately because there are 4 people tracking it. It's still a product that has been able to sell up to $60 or $70 pretty easily. And so this is a product that you'd want to track again. Now, really all you're trying to do with any of these strategy guides, again, is just establish what's the baseline intrinsic value. What do we think we see tons of historical sales at? And then track it for a price that's lower than that. And what I'd recommend is maybe not tracking these at a super low price, but especially if you find a product that is sort of like an asset and tends to hold value in a certain range, you could probably be a little bit below that, maybe about 60% of it, maybe even 70% of that. Because what you could also do is try to get a little bit of that prime bump as well. Try to get a little bit more being a prime seller winning the buy box. That's completely reasonable. Like, you can see that even though the lowest use price of this book was 50 and then got down to 40 and 30, you can see that the used buy box is still holding strong between 60 and $90. And from experience, I know that you can actually sell a lot of these books for $20, $30 more than the lowest use price. Again, I wouldn't make all of our buying decisions based on that, but it's just something that you should be aware of, that, yeah, there is this prime gap. Sometimes you can exploit it a little bit. And for, again, books that tend to have very long-term historical data showing that they're an asset and they hold value, those are the books that you could spend a little bit more on, because you know that the risk of you buying that book and losing money is quite low. I mean, if it's been selling for 3 or 5 years and it's always at least $50 and you buy it for 35, I mean, there's not really any way you're going to lose money. Like, worst case scenario, you'll break even, kind of a thing. Now, what we're going to do is go back to advanced filter just to kind of see, okay, well, what are some ways that maybe we can pick up any of these strategy guides right now? And so one way that you can do that is coming back to the use price. You can see that over the last 90-day average, we have, we're trying to find a book that has a value of $30 or more. And then you can say for the current price is under $30, something like that. That brings down the number of products significantly. and you can, click find products and search for them that way. And what you're gonna be looking for is just kind of sort of a repricing where you see the price kind of drop down, not necessarily like this where it's like a stair step like that, kind of more of like a slope downward. And so if I come down a little bit further, I see this high roll warrior game. Is something like this is kind of what you're looking for, is a bunch of sells at this higher price, or repricing war between a couple of sellers, and then it gets pretty low bottoms out there, and there's some opportunity for you to buy it, and then you can see how the price recovers back to what I was normally selling for. So if you had done this Keepa product finder search back in February, you would have been able to pick up this book for probably right around like 10, 11 bucks, and you can see the most recent sells on the 40. So not a strategy guide that's selling for a ton of money, but still a bunch of money to be made there. Now, some other ways that you can do this as well is you can go back to the use price, and we can say, instead of, being a price under 30, we can just say, let's look for anything that over the last 180 days has actually had a lot more value. Like, let's say anything that's had $50 or more. And then we can say we want the current price to be, no more than, I don't know, we can say $30. And that brings back 16 products. You can do something like that. You can also say we're looking for anything that's over 50 bucks, and say we're looking for anything that's the lowest ever. Doesn't look like there's any books that meet that criteria, but being creative with the way that you do this is going to be really helpful in finding these books. Now, I do want to show you a few other ways that you can find these books as well. So remember that we are in the book category. We did have that subcategory, but what we could also do is go ahead and under manufacturer or brand, we could type in Nintendo. So Nintendo is a maker of a lot of these guides. So we can go ahead and put Nintendo in like that. You can see there's 9 products. We go over to brand as well. We can type in Nintendo. You can see that that's going to be like 10 products. So you could put the brand, you could put the model. Now, also remember that we had other strategy guides that had different publisher names. So we had Prima Games, so you could just copy Prima Games. You can come back here to your product finder, and again, under manufacturer, you can put in Prima Games. You can see there's actually 502 products. So it actually looks like Nintendo is not really a manufacturer of a lot of these strategy guides. Maybe they kind of outsource it to a third party. So we got Prima Games there, or under brand, you could also do Prima Games, and you've got more products there. Now, manufacturer and brand are slightly different, and so you probably want to do searches for them individually, or you could do them together. I think you might be able to do that as well. Actually, no. So you want to do one or the other. And again, you're going to be finding different books, because you have to remember that people who make these listings are just kind of like everyday people like you and me. They oftentimes might not list something correctly. They might list it as a brand or a manufacturer. You can see that some of these official guides are not even in the correct subcategory and so on. So being creative with how you do this is pretty important. Now, again, we go back to this official National Pokédex book. And again, you have Piggyback Interactive. That's a different publisher there, or a different manufacturer. So you can type that in. The brand, and it looks like we've got 2 products. So I would bet that one of those 2 products is going to be that Pokédex book. Now, even more strategies for finding these books is like, let's say, for example, you're not able to find a strategy guide because there's no subcategory. So you can't find it under, the subcategory that we had here, computer and internet game strategies. But then let's also say, you're not searching Prima Games, or you're not searching Nintendo. How in the world would you find it, right? If you don't have a manufacturer, if you don't have a subcategory, how do you find the book? Well, you can also look at the titles, right? The Legend of Zelda in the book category, or something like Strategy Guide. Those are all good ideas. So what we can do is copy Strategy Guide, and then right under the subcategories, there's something called text field. And so you can go ahead and just type in Strategy Guide, and you can see 724 products come that way as well. So a lot of different ways to find these books. Again, what you really want is probably just to track a lot of them. And I mean, I don't know if I flipped over 100 different ones, but I've definitely flipped at least 100, strategy guides at least 100 times. I'm not sure if it's been 100 individual titles, but it is a significant source of income. They're great books to find. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And just one last thing, if you guys want to come to the Books and God Resource Conference happening this September 13th to 15th in Las Vegas, Nevada, grab your ticket below at a discounted rate before May 30th. And I hope to see you guys there. So that's a good one. See you guys in the next one, and bye-bye.